WBPSA এই ধরনের অনুষ্ঠান 2022 থেকে করার চেষ্টা করছে এবং ইদানিং বেশ কিছু কলেজের সঙ্গে সহযোগিতাতেও করে থাকছে। আজকের বিষয়টিও খুব অত্যাধুনিক, রিসাইক্লিং গান্ধী, দ্য পলিটিক্স অফ আত্মনির্ভর ভারত অভিযান। এরকম একটি অসামান্য বিষয়ে আমরা বক্তব্য রাখার জন্য পেয়েছি অধ্যাপক প্রস্কন্ন সিংহরায় মহাশয়কে। উনি বেঙ্গালুরুর গীতম ইউনিভার্সিটিতে পড়ান। আজকের অনুষ্ঠানের সঞ্চালনা এবং ইত্যাদির দায়ভার অধ্যাপিকা মৌসুমী দাশগুপ্ত মহাশয়ার। কাজেই আমি আর সময় অতিবাহিত না করে আমি চাইবো ম্যাডাম যদি এখান থেকে অনুষ্ঠানটি সঞ্চালনার দায়িত্ব তুলে নেন।
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of Victoria Institution College. At the outset, let me welcome all those who could make time for this webinar today. Before we start, I would like to express my gratitude to West Bengal Political Science Association, my gratitude towards my own college, principal, IQAC coordinator, the head of the Department of Political Science, and last but definitely not the least, to my junior from my own university, an upcoming scholar, and a very popular face in the university, and I guess he is still as popular as he used to be now in his own university as well, Dr. Praskanva Sinharay, who readily agreed to be a part of this webinar under a very short notice. So without much ado, let me now invite Dr. Apurva Mohan Mukhopadhyay, who is the General Secretary of West Bengal Political Science Association, to present the introductory remarks.
Ma'am, sir will not be available today.
Okay.
Sir asked me to give a very nominal introduction and then the vote of thanks.
That will be fine. I think you can go on with it.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I am Ronit Mukherjee. I am an executive committee member of West Bengal Political Science Association. West Bengal Political Science Association cordially invite all of you to this excellent discussion, this webinar today. We are very pleased to have Dr. Praskanva Sinharay with us. We are also very much very intrigued with this collaboration with Victoria Institution. We thank all the political science fraternity of Victoria Institution along with their administrative heads. We hope that this kind of initiatives also flourish in the sooner future. We are organizing these kind of seminars since 2022, and it has been quite popular till date. Apart from the Google Meet, we also live stream our webinars in YouTube, and even the lectures are archived there. So if anyone joins us later, they can actually follow up the whole lecture or even the lectures that were delivered before in our YouTube channel named as West Bengal Political Science Association. In this moment, I would also like to request all of you to subscribe to our YouTube channel if possible. Apart from the webinars, we also are very interesting and significant lectures on different topics, on various topics. Without any further delay, I would also like to thank specifically the administration of this college, because we all know how much troublesome the CU exams can be these days, and even in the midst of those, if a college is indulging themselves into academic activities, that is definitely something that our association very much appreciates. So thank you all, and thank you all for coming for this webinar. Without any further delay, I would like to ask Professor Dashgupta if she could continue the proceedings of this program.
Thank you, Ronit.
Thank you.
And may I now request Dr. Orpita Mukherjee, Head of the Department of Political Science, Victoria Institution College, to say a few words.
Very good afternoon to all present here. We are very glad that we have got this opportunity to host this webinar in collaboration with West Bengal Political Science Association, and I'm sure that many like me have long ties with the. So, and as Ronit said, that This is the first such collaborative venture from our part, and we hope that many more will follow. The topic is extremely interesting, very topical, very current, and we are all waiting eagerly for Dr. Praskanva Sinharay to proceed with his lecture. Thank you. Over to Dr. Dashgupta.
Thank you, Arpita Di. Uh, I would now like to request Dr. Moitri Ray Kanjilal, Honorable Principal, Victoria Institution College, to to give her the welcome address for today's webinar.
Thank you, Moushumi. At first, as the head of the institute, I convey the heartiest welcome to all the representatives from West Bengal Political Science Association. Today's speaker, Dr. Praskanva Sinharay, all the representatives from Victoria Institution College, faculty members, IQAC coordinator, and my beloved students on this virtual platform. From the COVID, we learned that how the virtual platform can be used for such webinar. Today, Victoria Institution College, its Political Science Department, in association with West Bengal Political Science Association, organized the webinar on recycling Gandhi, the politics of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. That is a very important topic, especially who are studying in the political science. So that will help a lot to the students. And I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to the Political Science Association of West Bengal for giving the scope of Political Science Department of Victoria Institution College to organize this webinar. And I believe this association has been started from since long days ago, as I learned from Moushumi and Dr. Urpita Mukherjee. That association with Victoria Institution College will extend long days, and Victoria Institution College Political Science Department will conduct more webinar, seminar, different academic programs under the guidance and association with West Bengal Political Science Association. So I believe this webinar will give certain inputs to the students. Students came to know that you have the webinar, you have the YouTube channel. From these also they can get the help, and in future, under the guidance of teachers, the students who are interested in this field, they will be enlightened with large informations. I would like to thank Dr. Sheena Roy from a very far distance. He is present here to enlighten our students and faculty member. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now I would like to invite IQAC Coordinator of Victoria Institution College, Dr. Shumallo Kormokar, to say a few words if he is available.
Thank you. Very good evening to our respected principal, madam, the resource person of today, Dr. Praskanva Sinharay, the members of the West Bengal Political Science Association, the HOD of Political Science Department, Dr. Urpita Mukherjee, Dr. Moushumi Dashgupta, other faculties, and my very dear students. It is indeed a great thing of honor for us that West Bengal Political Science Association is collaborating with us for such seminars and webinars. Without any more delay, I would just like to wish this program a great success and would ask Dr. Moushumi Dashgupta to carry on with the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Shumallo. Now, a few words about today's esteemed speaker. Dr. Sinharay completed his PhD from the Center for Studies in Social Sciences, Calcutta, Jadavpur University. His doctoral research has been on ethnographic study. It was an ethnographic study of the organizational activism and emerging politico-cultural assertions of the Motuas, a caste subaltern religious group who are predominantly post-partition refugees in contemporary West Bengal. He has received the German Academic Exchange Service Fellowship for his doctoral research. He holds his MPhil in Social Sciences from CSSC and MA in International Relations from Jadavpur University. Dr. Sinharay has published profusely in reputed journals such as Political and Legal Anthropology Review, South Asia Journal of South Asian Studies, Refugee Watch, Economic and Political Weekly, and so on and so forth. Now, we all are eagerly waiting to listen to Praskanva. So, at last, I now invite our esteemed speaker, my junior from Jadavpur University, Dr. Praskanva Sinharay, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, Geetam University, Bangalore, to start his presentation. Over to you, Praskanva.
Thank you. So, I think it's a privilege to be invited by West Bengal Political Science Association and Victoria Institution, as you know, is a very old institute and the institute of repute. So, first of all, I thank West Bengal Political Science Association, Professor Apurva Mohan Mukhopadhyay, Professor Ronit Mukherjee, Professor Moitri Rai Kanjilal, Professor Urpita Mukherjee, Professor Shaumallo Kormokar, and last but not the least, Professor Moushmi Dasgupta, who has kindly invited me to be part of this webinar. And of course, I see some 31 people have already joined the webinar. So Thursday, 7:30, I think we really love the discipline. So thank you all for joining. So this is basically what I'll do is I'll sometimes switch to Bangla, as Maushumi told me to do. So basically, as you all have listened to my introduction, that my PhD work or my existing research was largely on Motuas and their organizational activism. And this is a very recent work that I have started working on the question of largely blue economy. And but this is particularly blue economy. When we discuss, when we present the paper, we will talk about it. But broadly, initially, what I thought that I'll look at the icons of this particular campaign called Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which is a very
It is
Yes,
visible.
okay.
It's
yes.
perfectly visible.
Okay, thank you. So the title of this working paper is Recycling Gandhi Notes on Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. On 2nd October 1919, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi celebrated his 51st birthday in Bombay. The Bhagini Samaj, one of the oldest women's organizations in colonial India, had raised a sum of 23,000 rupees, which they presented to Gandhi in a public meeting to mark the occasion. In his brief acceptance speech, Gandhi said, and this is an excerpt from the speech, I quote, "Since you have shown me so much love today, I appeal to you to show the love that will bring back Satya Yuga. India is in a position to take care of itself. If we use only the cloth produced in the country, we shall be able to make the country secure in a very short time. I have been campaigning for the spinning wheel. The chastity of women can be protected with the help of the spinning wheel. There is no other occupation in which our millions of women can engage themselves while staying at home. This does not call for much intelligence. India must learn to be self-sufficient. When India produces brave men and women, we shall become self-reliant. We have to show the gallantry of Satyagraha. This needs more bravery than the bravery of arms. If that happens, we shall be free right away." Unquote. Almost 100 years later, On 12th March 2021, the Sabarmati Ashram Trust gifted Narendra Modi, the current Prime Minister of India, a framed copy of this aforementioned speech by Gandhi. When the Prime Minister visited the ashram on the eve of launching Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav initiative to mark the 75 years of India's independence. The rationale behind the gift, as one trustee of the ashram said, was that Gandhi in this speech had stated that India must learn to be self-reliant. हिंदुस्तान को आत्मनिर्भर होना सीखना ही होगा. The statement, although quoted and used out of context, has given the incumbent government and contemporary Indian politics one of its keywords, Atmanirbhar, self-reliant. On 12th May 2020, in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government of India launched the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, or the Self-Reliant India campaign, with the vision of creating a new India. Prime Minister Modi announced a special economic package of 20 lakh crore, which is 10% of the country's GDP, to promote business, attract investment, and further strengthen Make in India and prepare the country for tough competition in the global supply chain. A series of government programs have been introduced and policy changes have been made since then under the focus areas of the campaign, which is economy, infrastructure, system, demography, and demand. Interestingly, the political figure who has been repeatedly invoked in this campaign is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. The campaign has been likened with Gandhian ideals, and terms such as Swadeshi and Swaraj have been periodically used by the government to promote it. In 2022, at the 36th convocation of the Gandhi Gram Rural Institute in Dindigul, Tamil Nadu, for instance, Modi said that the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat has been inspired by the Gandhian idea of self-reliance. In another event in Ahmedabad the same year, Home Minister Amit Shah remarked that the Union government schemes such as Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Vocal for Local are the new definitions of Swadeshi, and that Modi has given a new lease of life to all the ideas of Bapu. This working paper, which I'm presenting today, aims to understand this new politics of Swadeshi and the ways in which Gandhi and his ideas have been recycled by the BJP-led government in the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Firstly, I'll talk about the infrastructure sector, one of the verticals of the campaign, and reflect on the political economy of the projects launched as a part of it. Secondly, I critically look at one of the campaign initiative, the Sagar Mala project, and its impact on the fish workers, the frontline coastal communities, and the environment through a study of the Viringam International Seaport project in Kerala. In doing so, the paper shows how the ideas of Atmanirbhar and Swadeshi have been recycled as market concepts and the politics of greenwashing Gandhi as a symbol for neoliberal growth. The politics of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is not merely about appropriating Gandhi, but it is a deceptive tactic of recycling Gandhi and ideas to advance an agenda of the neoliberal economy. Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is one of the pillars of this campaign is infrastructure. The vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, as it has been reiterated in a series of government documents and speeches of the political leadership, is to develop a world-class infrastructure in India. This is what Ashok Ghatner is called rule by aesthetics. That is, the language of governance, both at the level of civil society and state institution, has become that of bourgeois aesthetics. Here, one cannot help but recall a popular Bengali song by Kobi Shuman, if called Chingchak Chhara Kichu Thakbe Na. Initiatives such as the Sagarmala program and National Infrastructure Pipeline have been launched as part of the campaign. Investments to be made in the infrastructure was estimated at about 4.5 trillion US dollars. There has been in subsequent budget, we saw that there has been an increase in capital expenditure to push for infrastructural development, both by the union and state governments. And if we look at the funding sources, who was funders of these infrastructural development, we'll see who are the main stakeholders in this entire ecosystem of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. The funders are union and state governments, public sector banks and non-banking finance corporations, multilateral development banks, development finance institutions, and private equities. Basically, it's a mix of your and my money plus private finance. The Ministry of External Affairs also created something called a viability gap funding for such infrastructural development projects. And viability uh, gap funding is basically the cost of the project and the expected revenue and the difference between the two. And when you basically, and that's the money which government actually funds, coastal tourism and so forth. It's part of India's larger blue economy agenda. Now, what is blue economy? It's a term which is very relatively new in the world of politics and international finance. It refers to a range of economic activities related to the oceanscape, which are aimed at the sustainable management of coasts and marine resources for financial growth, generation of jobs, and conservation of maritime environment. Oceans are now considered as the next economic frontier by international bodies such as the UN and OECD and international financial institutions such as the World Bank, the IMF, and multilateral development banks such as ADB and JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency. National governments, the banking sector, business groups, and private investors are the key stakeholders of this neoliberal economic vision. Oceans are increasingly seen as spaces that need to be opened and developed in order to provide opportunities for economic growth. What needs to be noted is that this economic roadmap to capture the oceanscape is drawn from a logic of environmental protection and conservation, particularly in the name of addressing the Sustainable Development Goal 14, that is life underwater. In the next decade, the economic activities in and around the oceans is estimated to generate 3 to 6 trillion US dollars wealth and 40 million jobs, thus making the ocean economy the world's seventh largest. Given the use of the term frontier, the blue economy, scholars have pointed out, demands the closure of spatial frontiers and opening up of new regulatory and ethical frontiers to generate a cycle of both opportunity and dispossession. The dominant view of the oceanscape, backed by big capital inflows, that revolves around exploring and celebrating the economic and financial potential of the oceans, thus simultaneously suppresses the voices of those who have traditionally viewed, dependent, and accessed the oceans and the coasts as the commons. The Sagarmala initiative, the motto of which is port-led prosperity, is part of the blue economy agenda of India. India is, of course, part of this larger financial infrastructure, global financial infrastructure of blue economy. India being a peninsular country, having a coastline of 7,517 kilometers and 1382 islands, is an active and enthusiastic participant in the blue economic agenda of the global capital. In 2015, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, I quote, "To me, the blue chakra or the wheel in India's national flag represents the potential of blue economy or the ocean economy. This is how central the ocean economy is to us," unquote. The country's blue economy agenda is officially defined as, and I quote, as a subset of the national economy comprising of the entire system of ocean resources and man-made economic infrastructure in marine, maritime, and onshore coastal zones with India's legal jurisdiction, which aid in the production of goods and services and have clear linkages with economic growth, economic sustainability, and national security. To understand the current push for this blue growth, it is important to discuss how India's coastal infrastructure has developed from the legal regulatory perspective. And here on screen, you can see the Sagarmala program, how the letter issued by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And here on the right, you see the Viringam port on the rightmost image.
I'm
The
sorry to
regulation,
interrupt you, Praskanva. I'm
yes,
sorry to interrupt you, but I think there's a comment as well. The slides aren't moving for some reason.
no, because I'm not moving them. I'll
Oh,
move
okay,
it.
okay, okay. No, you just said that you can see in the slide, so I felt like
No,
interrupting.
no, no.
Anyways, anyways.
It's
Yeah.
not. There are three
Okay,
images currently on the
okay,
slide. Can you
okay.
see those? Okay. The regulation of coastal areas in India started in 1981 when the Ministry of Environment and Forest issued guidelines for the management of coasts and beaches. In the same year, the Department of Ocean Development was established, and which was later named the Ministry of Earth Sciences. A decade later, the coastal regulation zones were notified in 1991 under the Environmental Protection Act 1986. Based on this notification, a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court of India in 1996 led to the establishment of coastal zone management authorities. Both argued that two major policy issues were noticed. First, the insufficient fund allocation to these CZMAs, that is the coastal zone management authorities, and inadequate or zero representation of the coastal communities in such bodies. Second, a series of dilution of laws vis-a-vis the coastal regulations to pave the road for big development projects. In the last decade, there has been a fresh impetus to boost the blue economy in India. A series of policy initiatives has been undertaken for India's blue growth agenda, that is, which are, for example, Amritkal Vision 2047, Vision for India 2030, Maritime India Vision 2030, Blue Revolution schemes for the fisheries sector, such as the Fisheries and Aquaculture Infrastructure Development Fund and the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. There have also been attempts to dilute the laws, commercialize and corporatize the coast and the ocean. In 2014, for example, the Shailesh Nayak Committee was appointed to review the CRZ 2011 notification, and the report of this committee made several recommendations to relax the previous provision with the aim of boosting tourism, real estate, and meet the urbanization needs in coastal areas. Further, the 2018 notification, the CRZ 2018 notification is another example which further diluted the laws, legal framework, thus opening up for real estate, industry, tourism, etc. India's Blue Growth Agenda has received the support from international financial organizations such as the World Bank. In 2022, for example, the World Bank approved almost 400 million US dollars to a blue economy project of India called Enhancing Coastal and Ocean Resource Efficiency (ENCORE Phase 1). It encompasses projects in Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, and West Bengal, and three coastal union territories, Daman and Diu, Lakshadweep, and Puducherry. A third project in Sagar, which is security and growth for all in the region, pertaining to maritime security and trade in the Indian Ocean region, was launched in 2015. In consonance with these changes in the national legal framework, vis-a-vis the management of coastlines, coupled with the largest systematic push for international financial push by the international financial infrastructure, the Sagarmala program was launched in 2015 as a signature initiative by the incumbent government at the center. The objective of this program are A, port modernization and new port development, uh, port connectivity enhancement, port-led industrialization, coastal community development, coastal shipping and inland waterways transport. As part of this program, a national perspective plan was prepared in 2016, and the development of India's entire coastline, navigable waterways, and maritime infrastructure. More than 574 projects have been identified under this program for being implemented between 2015 to 2035. One such project is the Veringam International Seaport Project in Kerala. Now, the history of Viringam goes back to 1000 BC, and there have been a lot of literature has been written on Viringam so far. So I'll briefly summarize what has happened there. So the history goes back to 1000 BC during the reign of Chera and Chola dynasties. In the 20th century, the area was developed by the Maharani, like the ruler of Travancore, called Rani Sethu Lakshmi Bai, under the supervision of Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer, the Diwan of Travancore. In 1960, the area was further developed in three phases as a fishing harbor, ideated by a Swedish fishing expert called Carl Job. But the Viringam International Port, it's located some 16 kilometers out of Thiruvananthapuram, the capital of Kerala, and it was conceived as a non-major deep sea port in 1991 by then Congress-led government in Kerala under Chief Minister K. Karunakaran. The development of the project, it was proposed, would follow a public-private partnership model. It was spearheaded as by the Viringam International Seaport Limited, state government-owned company, with the International Finance Organization, which is the private arm of the World Bank Group, acting as a transaction advisor to attract private investment. The IFC managed 1.6 million US dollar in trust funds for the project. However, the project faced opposition from the Kerala Independent Fish Workers Federation, who filed a complaint with the Compliance Advisory Ombudsman, which is again the Ombudsman of the World Bank Group, in 2012. Years later, in 2018, the CAO later identified in two non-compliances concerning the process of land acquisition and project's potential negative impacts on the livelihoods of the local fishing communities. Fish workers said that their access to the sea was denied with the development of the project. Multiple protests were held by fish workers, particularly small fisherfolk, climate activists, and the local tourism industry. In 2013, the project was cleared by under the CRZ 2011 notification by an expert committee, and 2 years later, in 2015, the development and management of the port was awarded to Adani Ports and SEZs, the sole bidder, for a 60-year lease. Construction of 360 acres, including 130 acres of reclaimed land from the sea, with an investment of almost 7.5 crore. 7.5 thousand crores. However, the project had faced resistance from locals due to the environmental concerns, displacement of fishermen, denial of access to the commons, and delay in rehabilitation and compensation. The tendering process was found to be flawed by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India in 2017. Further, the CRZ notification 2018 overturned the environmental and social safeguards of the CRZ 2011, thus aggravating the project's negative impacts. Broadly speaking, what were the impacts of the project? First, the legal impacts, which is the dilution of the project and the larger blue economy agenda in India. Number one, what we saw is that the dilution of the legal framework in terms of ensuring environmental and social safeguards, like we saw from 2011 notification and the 2019 notification in between the Shailesh Nayak committee recommendations. All these diluted the regulations and provided access to the coastline to private investors and big development projects. Second, the coastal erosion leading, it's the environmental impact, which is the coastal erosion due to extreme weather events, so floods and other events, extreme weather events. And we know this is in the larger Indian infrastructure, the consequences like the Tista floods or the Joshimat climate crisis. And we have seen that how infrastructure development is leading to extreme weather events, floods, avalanche, so forth, across the country. More importantly, the construction of breakwaters in Sagarmala projects, multiple projects, including the Viringam International Seaport project, is that there has been a loss of fish, and it's a huge loss for the local fishing communities. And particularly in case of Viringam, it's a loss of mussel catch, which is an important source of economy and livelihood for these people. Third, it's the political impact of the project, where we see that something called the coastal zone regulatory authorities were formed by a judgment of the Supreme Court. But if you look at the composition of those local bodies, we'll see that it's mostly government officials, and there is almost minimum or no representation of local communities, local fish folks in those bodies. So that's a major dilution or against the spirit of decentralization of power. Second, there has been a black sliding of local democracy and particularly the directive principles of state policy. So there's a violation of constitutional safeguards or advices. That's the case on many writings and the case of Birmingham International Project shows that there are many people have been displaced and they are currently living in relief camps. And there has not been no compensation or anything for these people, or there is delayed in compensation. So that's a major like accumulation by disposition. And fourthly, there is loss of livelihood of coastal communities, particularly the Mukuvas. Mukuvas, Ajanta Subramanian's work writes a lot about Mukuva community. And then, like I said, there is compensation delay or denial, and accumulation of uh, by disposition and privatization of commons is something which we have seen across the coastal zone in this Sagalmara project and this blue economic age. How so? I already talked about the resistance that came up against such big projects like the Birmingham International projects. And the methods, if you see that the protest came largely from local fishermen, environmental activists, and the local tourism industry. There has been petitions in the National Green Tribunal and the Supreme Court. There have been regular agitations and demonstrations, and the term they are using is also satyagraha. And many organizations like the National Fish Workers Forum, Thiruvananthapuram Latin Archdiocese, Our Lady of Good Voyage, another parish based in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, Small Fishers Associations, Seva, Rashtriya Kisan Mahasangh, all these organizations, small local organizations, have backed up these agitations and participated in protests against the construction of such irrational port projects. There is also petitioning the state and international organizations, as we discussed in case of like the Kerala Independent Fishermen's Federation. They went to the World Bank's CAO to against the IFC funding as the transaction advisor, and there were violations found. There has also been collaborations with NGOs like Coastal Watch and all to amplify the voices of the people who have been impacted by the project. And there has also been media campaign, both in the traditional media and social media like Facebook, and the new media, Facebook, Twitter, and elsewhere. But what is also interesting is that the protests in Birmingham has also, there has been rifts and fissures within the local communities due to different types of class formations and mobility aspirations of the local fisher folks. And of course, there is also a change in position of activist organizations for the label, for the fear of being labeled as anti-national and losing funding sources. Like we know, many NGOs and organizations are losing their FCRA licenses. So these are some of the issues that, as response to the big project, has come up. So these are two images. On the left, you see that's a Zoom meeting. So how then there is NAPM India, which is the National Alliance for People's Movement. They have organized a webinar on Birmingham International Port Fishing Communities Resistance. And of course, on the right, you see the protests against the project construction, and here the protesters. So these are some of the protests, but there is also divisions within the local communities as of now. Now we'll come to the conclusion. It is as of now. Now we'll come to the conclusion. So, in conclusion, let us return to the Home Minister's Amit Shah's statement on the new definitions of Swadeshi and the idea of self-reliance and how it has been given a new lease of life in the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. What is then the new definitions of these two Gandhian ideas which have been invoked and advanced in contemporary Indian politics? The image on the screen perhaps perfectly captures these new definitions. What you see is a charka made out of stainless steel, which has been installed quite ironically by the Khadi and Village Industries Commission in the heart of the national capital of New Delhi. And this is an image from Connaught Place, Rajiv Chowk in New Delhi. Khadi is in this paradigm of New India or Viksit Bharat is no longer Gandhian. It is a product. It is a product conceived exclusively in market terms. As the current Indian Prime Minister famously remarked, Khadi is now a project of 5 Fs: farm to fiber to factory to fashion to foreign. Like the stainless steel charka and the marketization of khadi, the new definitions of Swadeshi and Atmanirbhar are two market-driven concepts aimed at the privatization of the commons and the local economy in pursuit of neoliberal growth. This is evident from the discussion around one infrastructure project, the development of the Birmingham International Seaport, control of coastal areas, accumulation by disposition, dilution of legal frameworks to pave the way for private investments in coastal areas, violation of constitutionalism, creation of social antagonisms, corporate greed, and privatization of the commons are some of the key features of this Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and its neoliberal economic agenda. Interestingly, the political figure who has been associated with it is Gandhi, someone who had advocated for indigenous knowledge system, strengthening of local economy, a confederation of self-governing, self-reliant, self-employed people living in village communities. This is not merely a politics of appropriating Gandhi. Instead, it is a politics of greenwashing Gandhi and recycling his icon and ideas for a new India which Gandhi could have never imagined. In discard studies, recycling is a process of discarding and subsequent refashioning, an idea that is being promoted by bourgeois environmentalism. And this is we all know and we see. For example, if you buy a Coca-Cola can, the recycle word is written in bigger fonts than the Coca-Cola name itself, right? And I don't know if some of you have come across this particular shoe company called Neiman's, who actually make shoes out of single-use plastics. So whatever you see, water bottle, PET bottles and all, you throw them and they turn it into basically, so those, they are recycled into shoes. Similarly, Gandhi is also now maybe a discarded figure, and so are his ideas like Swadeshi and Atmanirbhar. In the political imagination of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Gandhi is thus recycled to meet the market demands of neoliberal growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Praskanva. A wonderful presentation indeed. Very enlightening, and at the same time, it has stirred a lot of questions, I'm sure. Now, let us open the floor to discussion. I would invite questions, observations, queries from the audience. Please pose your questions after you have introduced yourself. So, we are ready for the questions. Please raise your hands so that I can just call you up. Anybody? Questions, queries, observations? No questions, no queries, observations at the least. Nothing. Okay, if nobody has, yes, anybody wants to ask a question? Did I hear somebody? Please raise your hand if you want to. Okay, if nobody has a question, I think I would. Okay, Aditya Ghoshal. Aditya, please introduce yourself and pose your question to the speaker.
To the speaker. Hi, I am Aditya. I am an ecologist. I work in conservation science. And so it was very interesting, Proshkona, your talk. And one thing, like this is also something that I'm getting to know from working in my field, is there is a very intricate co- relationship between environmental justice as well as social justice when it comes to especially projects like any developmental project actually. So and this has become a because I mean maybe I do not know the other members of the audience, but a lot of you may not know, but like in our country, like conservation works on the principle of exclusion, that animals and humans live completely different, like separated from each other, which is very difficult in a country like India, right? Like where we have very few protected areas or actual native forests. So what ends up mostly happening also when people take conservation decisions, you guys are political scientists, maybe you'll have a better understanding of this, but people are literally uprooted, like communities will be uprooted if like a certain part or a certain part that fringes on a protected area that can have a bit of biodiversity that requires regulation, definitely, because we all know that numbers are really bad for the animal populations. But at the same time, it also, instead of somehow building the people up on the ground who are coexisting with the wildlife, that how they can, deal with the situations better, provide them with better compensatory mechanisms. Instead of that, they are literally uprooted, they're given some amount of money. And in a lot of cases, uh, these could be tribal communities who have been living there for centuries. And within a few months, like because some policy decision gets passed, similar to like again a developmental project, that okay, we have a conservation project here. So if you have existed here, I mean, I know there are some checks and balances in terms of the FRA and all. I would like to know what Pushkar also you think about this. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you, Adi. Proshkonno, will you answer one by one, or would you like to take the questions
we can take more
first?
questions. We can take
Okay.
more questions. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Is there anybody with a question, with any question or query or observation? Please feel free to ask. Shivani Kapoor, please introduce
Um,
yourself and ask the question.
yeah, thank you so much for this, Pushkono. I'm Shivani Kapoor. I work at OP Jindal Global University. Um, so, listening to your presentation, it made me think about something else that the present regime has done with the figure and the politics of Gandhi, and I think it's a I think which is really the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which is also a case where Gandhian ideas about public space, about cleanliness, and also very centrally about manual labor, and of course all of this adds up to caste. Those ideas were twisted and appropriated in a very sort of convenient um, pop culture kind of a way in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan as well, right? Really going away from the crux of what Gandhi would have meant by manual labor, uh, ideas of cleanliness, and so on and so forth. So, do you think it's a larger kind of a politics? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. Anybody else who has a question in mind? Please go ahead. Pushkarno, I think you can start addressing the questions. I have one too, but I think I'll save mine for the end. Okay, so you can go ahead addressing the questions.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Moshmidi. So basically, thanks, Aditya and Shivani. Uh, First is environmental and social justice questions. Of course, there's an interrelated. I mean, see, for example, in context of West Bengal, there is a fantastic essay by Ross Malik, when Tiger and Anu Jala's book, when tigers and the conflict between tigers and humans in Sundarban, particularly during the Morichapi massacre. And I mean, the entire migration during Morichapi was stopped to make this particular into a reserved forest, and there were people who were killed. So it's all and people who were killed, particularly in Morichapi, were the Namashudra migrants. So now, which brings us to the question of, say, politics of rehabilitation of refugees and Dalit migrants who actually were massacred, and in the pretext of environmental protection, right? And this is something like these are, you're absolutely right. These are abs- absolutely connected questions. Those questions of social justice when tiger became citizens, like Ross Manlik's work and Anujala's work. The citizens became tiger food, something like that. I'm forgetting the exact title of the
When
book.
tigers became citizens?
No. When tiger food, when citizens became
Okay,
tiger
okay.
food, something like that. Just Ross Malik and Anujala. If anyone Googles it, like tiger food, citizen, refugee, Sundarban, Marichapi, you will get it. Uh, and I can share the book title articles with you as well. But this particular, this the social justice question and environmental question we've seen in other parts of India. Tista project, the flash floods that happened, people who were affected. Just look at the social profile of those people who were affected. Then these are related questions, and but I mean, I know Aditya, you are an environmentalist, so I think how to bridge these, I don't know. I don't really have an answer that to like how to look at from the conservation perspective, because that's not my paper. But the question is definitely connected, the question of social justice and environmental justice. And we need to figure out a way. I mean, there are initiatives by local NGOs, local communities, empowering local communities. I think one of the key aspects of to address this question. Like, we really need to go back to traditional methods, because this is something, the question, the conflict is arising because of crash industrialization and infrastructure development. And how to, there is any solution? I don't know. There is no one stop solution, but I think it's to be worked on. And this will also evolve, but definitely empowering local communities using traditional knowledges, how people interacted between nature and human. This needs to be explored and empower the local communities to empower to address this. That's one. Second, Shivani's question on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Yes, I mean, that's my hunch that what is happening with Gandhi. I'm also interested in that question. That was my paper about mainly. It's not about green gum or blue economy. I'm trying to basically map that what is happening in the country in the name of development, and and how the icon is basically used in the process, and how his ideas are given what they call a new lease of life. And that's why I think it's not mere politics of appropriation. It's a very different, and we know the history of the ruling dispensation and Gandhian ideas since the colonial period, late colonial period. Gandhi came to India in the 1915, 16, 17, that year, like we still celebrate Pravasi Bharti Divas on the day he came back to India. And then Gandhi's political life in India in between the 1920s and 1948. What we saw basically, we know the relationship between Gandhi and other political forces, particularly the political forces who are in power right now. Are they trying to do something with Gandhi? Maybe yes, because we have seen uh, Godse slogans and all slogans in the Indian Parliament, definitely in the public sphere, in the election rallies and political speeches. But there has also been condemnation of those remarks as fringe remarks. So one is definitely the icon of Gandhi is very important. It's still there. You can't discard that right away. But you can, of course, recycle them. And recycling is a process of discarding, like I say, and turn them into something else. Eventually, whether it will lead to kind of an politics of erasing, that we are still not sure. We don't know. We have to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Proshkona. Is there anybody with a question? Anybody else with a question? Okay, Orpitali.
I just checked Prushkonno, the topic, the title of the article is Dwelling on Morid Jhapi When Tigers Became Citizens, Refugees, Tiger Food.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you, Ronit. Yes. That's by
Thank you.
Ross Malik, right?
No, that is Anu Jalai.
Anujala is Anujala.
Anuj.
Yes.
Okay,
So
Orpita Di has a question. Orpita Di, please go ahead.
Prashkanva, it was a very illuminating lecture. But I have one query. That is, you said that this what happened for the local community, environmental degradation, these were all part of this push for the neoliberal economy, right? But my query is that you see, long before the neoliberal economy came, in fact, when India's economy was supposed to be socialist, say for instance, when the Narmada project happened, didn't the same thing happen? So, my query is that whether it is a socialist economy or a neoliberal economy, as said by the government, it doesn't really matter. At the ground level, it is all the same. So, what do you think about it?
can I go ahead and or should we take more questions?
No, you can go ahead. You can go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, Nehru said the dams are the temples. So we know, I mean, that development of dams or the way India since independence. So that's why I say that it's not only the current dispensation, and this is not something which has been started, uh, but in I mean this blue economy in particular. I mean developmental projects have always been like this, but the way the financing is working, I mean, say for example, when Bhakra Nangal had happened, or like many projects, like we have seen like World Bank funding since then, and like now post liberalization, and particularly if we look at the World Bank agenda that oceans are the new economic frontier, or the amount of investments that are coming right now. What had happened in the past, there is a continuity, yes, but what is happening now is a very different kind of disposition. So there is like the blue economy agenda is a very recent agenda. Second, if we like, I mentioned in the presentation that it is only since the late 80s this particular Ministry of Earth Sciences, like this entire uh, coastal management started. 96 also Supreme Court created a space for local organizations, local bodies like the CZMAs, but they didn't function well, or they were not allowed to function very well. And we know, like, I mean, but that, I mean, since the Narmada Bachao Andolan, for example, we saw now there is this Statue of Unity and the dam is there. But also there is resistance. For example, Narmada Bachao Andolan, or say the Tata Mundra project, international funding were withdrawn, right? So I think neoliberal growth, accumulation by disposition, these are going to happen, and this has happened always. Now there is a greater investment by multilateral development banks, particularly banks like ADB, AIIB, Zyka, all these. So there is greater investment, there is private investment, and there needs to be a resistance, and which can actually stop funding of such projects, or at least make sure that even if it happens, there are proper environmental and social safeguards, proper compensation is given, rehabilitation is given, uh, uh, laws are not further diluted. So I think such measures needs to be there. That what projects can be sanctioned, what projects can't be sanctioned. What we see now is a very rapid dilution of laws, huge investment, and absence of environmental social safeguards. That I think needs to be strengthened uh, to basically somehow reverse the impact of such big development projects.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Prashkanva. Anybody else with a question? Okay, so I think Prashkanva, let me put my own observation It's not a question, an observation at the most. So you mentioned Gertner's rule by aesthetics at the very outset. Now, taking cue from that, my observation is that do you think the politics of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, not only co-opts Gandhi's vision of self-reliance, but it also employs to a certain extent his affinity towards the indigenous, in the sense the usage of motifs, rhetorics, or semantics which we come across rapidly, and nowadays in the age of social media, that encounter with all this is it is on the rise. Even if one wants to or not, doesn't matter, because you are continuously bombarded with whatever those in power sitting want you to be bombarded with. So, the usage of motifs, rhetorics, semantics, which are deeply rooted in India's indigenous socio-cultural milieu. Um, the what should I say? The motive being the larger motive being, being able to cash on popularity or populist trappings. Do you think that this is also, the indigenous, the affinity towards the indigenous is also being employed, has also been employed in the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the politics of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, everything, as Shivani has mentioned, and I think that is very pertinent. Not only Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, but also Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has used the Gandhian rhetoric, politics, larger politics to a great extent.
Yeah, you're right. Gandhian politics, like Shivani said, like Gandhi's politics on caste is a different debate altogether. Then there is like Gandhi's idea of Harijan,
True.
uh, which is and then the Ambedkar's counter as, say, for example, the two terms, Harijan and Dalit. If we look
Hmm.
at these two terms, one is like turning a negative rank in the social hierarchy into a positive content, political content. And Harijan is a term of pity. So I think I don't know. But Gandhi, I'm not getting into, but like the way Gandhi's ideas are used, there is like the question of indigeneity is just I think veil uh, for larger changes, because it's no longer, like I said, that it's khadi is no longer khadi. It's
True, true, true. It's a
so
commodity.
it's a commodity where
It's
he's
a
saying
commodity.
that so it's not local economy per
No.
se. It's more of like what he the current and it has been repeated in the subsequent India and like the budget speeches as well, that it's a farm to fiber to factory to fashion to foreign. So it's not Gandhi, it's just the idea Gandhi floated of indigeneity and village economy, local economy. And Gandhi was not the idea of Swadeshi. We know from Gandhi's thinking that he was not against use of foreign goods, right? But he was for strengthening of local economies, right? So that is not, it's what we see, that it's the Gandhian idea of, say, vocal for local or Swachh Bharat or Atmanirbhar Bharat. Terms have been picked, but terms are just veils. Which our terms are just for the current establishments of people in power, is just date terms which need a new lease of life. That's what is being done through recycling those terms into as market concepts. So that's what I'm. So it's. Otherwise I don't know. So it's just because if we look at the projects and the funding they get, who are funding them? It's just private capital. Huge investments from multilateral development banks. What are the consequences of those investments? I think one is loss of land, loss of environment, loss of decentralization of power, dilution of the legal framework. So I think this is not what Gandhian ideas are. So Gandhian
No,
ideas
not definitely not.
uh, so Gandhian ideas are dead. The idea that, but indigeneity is now a like uh, needs to be, it acts as a veil for greenwashing. The green needs kind of a greenwashing and recycling. That's what it is. It's like Che Guevara is more popular than Mickey Mouse, right? That's what is happening these days.
Okay. Thank you, Pushkarno. Thank you very much. Is there is does anybody has a question for Pushkarno or any point to raise, any query observation? Okay, I think there are no more questions. Thank you, Pushkarno. Thank you so much. It has been an engaging session. I would now request Ronit from West Bengal Political Science Association to present the formal vote of thanks.
Acha, Urpita ma'am has raised her hand. Is the question done or is there?
Yes, yes, yes. You have. She has
Okay,
asked a
okay.
question, and Pushkarno has addressed it as well.
Okay. Before finishing it off, I would also like to mention that in the flyer that was circulated, it was mentioned that e-certificates will be provided. There is a link. There is a feedback link posted in the in-call messages. If anyone wants to collect the certificate, you are just supposed to go there and fill up the form, fill up the feedback form, and an automated, an auto-generated certificate will be appearing to your email ID as early as possible. Okay. So kindly do that if needed. So it was almost, I guess, 10 years later hearing Proshkonnoda. In fact, probably this is the first time when I am addressing him as Proshkonnoda. I got to know his name even probably a month after knowing him. So it's more like a reunion like experience for me, and I'm very much thankful to Victoria Institution for providing me with such an opportunity. It is beyond, and like it is uh, 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 supporting me in like beyond my academic rigor, I would say. So, but a formal ending is definitely needed. For that, I would like to thank the principal of Victoria College at first for her noble endeavor, for her support to the Department of Political Science Victoria Institution so that they could uh, cooperate with West Bengal Political Science. They could collaborate with our association in order to uh, um, engage in such an excellent talk. I would like to thank the IQAC of Victoria College for supporting the political science department in such occasions. I would thank the head of the department, Political Science Department, Victoria College, for this initiative, and Moshumi ma'am for the lovely anchoring that she did today. I also thank Professor Bimal Shankar Nando, the president of West Bengal Political Science Association, the General Secretary Professor Apurba Mohan Mukhopadhyay, our Treasurer Kaushik Chakraborty, and the whole executive committee. And last but not the least, I would like to thank Pushkonno Singhorai for being such a I can't even express in words. It was so indulging, also so simple in words. In Tagore once said that the hardest thing to do is to say things in the simplest words. And thank you so much, Prushkon Noda, for doing that today for us. We all are very much intrigued. Today we had a presence of around 35 to 40 people, with some people coming and going. We still don't have the data of YouTube. Thank you everyone for being so patient and being such a lovely audience and also supporting us. Roma ma'am was also there, Professor Roma Bushu. She was a faculty of Victoria College. She is our vice president right now. And thank you so much, ma'am, for your presence in our association and in this webinar also. Professor Swapun Chattopadhyay was there. He's an eminent professor of Calcutta University. He was also very what should I say? He's also very supportive to everything that the association does. The association has almost a legacy of 65 years, and it's one of the oldest organizations of its kind. It was inaugurated by Bidhan Chandra Rai long back in the 1960s. And I am glad that the association still kind of mixes the uh, uh, academic, the researches of the young scholars, the academic engagement of the professors, and the experience of the senior most members of our political science fraternity. If someone of you, any of the audience wants to become a member of this association, kindly contact Moushumi ma'am or Apurvo sir or me. And if there is any problem with the feedback form, definitely contact me. Till then, stay tuned. Definitely follow our YouTube. We always organize at least one webinar every month. So I hope to get all of your support so that we can continue this endeavor in the near future. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Good night. I hope it was a lovely discussion for all of you. Thank you.